and he looked pissed.
Wow.
Never met this guy, right? First time meeting, but the guy looks really pissed and just like really solemn face, like just glaring at me. And I'm like, so I take note, but I keep walking towards him, and he's standing in line to get ice cream for us. And the first thing he says to me, he looks down at my little shopping bag and he's like, "Oh, it looks like we have a little problem, don't we?"
It's no accident that sounds like you're leveling up in a video game. 48% of 18 to 29-year-olds have an online dating profile.
Make them work for it.
45% of people say they're more frustrated with this form of dating than hopeful.
There are so many people you can connect with.
Should I swipe right?
Swipe wrong. Swipe wrong. Setting the record straight on dating apps. Everyday people telling everyday stories of the swipe right world with your host, Chaos.
Well, I know he had a good time.
Happy day ending in Y. I hope you guys are doing outstanding, having an awesome day. Welcome back to the Swipe Wrong podcast. No matter how you are listening, actually, it feels like we are everywhere now. We are on Amazon. We are on TuneIn. We are on Podbean. We are on Apple Podcasts. We're Google, Chrome, Samsung. We're pretty much anywhere you can find a podcast. That's where we're located at. And truth be told, we started this idea a while ago, and while we were working on it, another Swipe Wrong pod actually dropped, I think, early July. And we were like, oh, damn, there's two, but there's thousands of sports shows, and believe me, there's plenty of stories getting around. We've listened to the other one as well. Dude does a great job. So, I mean, I'm not saying what you should or shouldn't do, but just to reinforce the fact that you are not alone in the crazy world, that's just expanding as far as that goes. So this episode, I've learned a lot, like talking to everybody. I really have. And I thought one of the most important lessons that I've learned as I've talked to people is you got to have like your community of people. Like you can't go through this alone. Like there is so much just, I keep saying crazy, but that's not the best way to put it. It's just such a roller coaster that if you don't have your crew to bounce things off of, or just somebody to kind of say, can you believe this shit, in a good way and in a bad way? Like, you know, you should, like, I feel like I'm talking about it's all bad. There's so much good. A couple of very good friends of mine met on some of these apps and are married happily with kids and all that. So it's not all train wreck after train wreck. It's just, there's a lot of train wrecks, and that's what we talk about. But this episode taught me a lot because it was somebody who was near and dear to my heart. One of my two favorite women on the planet, and one of my little sister. So she has got she's got some big brother mentality to her, which is awesome. And she has the best approach, one of the best approaches I think I've heard. And it made me smile. So learned a lot. So you'll hear her name, I think, in this one because she's just, here I am. This is me, and this is how I roll, and I fucking love her for it, and for many other reasons. So I think you'll all learn something from this. She's got a refreshing approach in a phenomenal way about her, of course. Big brother definitely taught her something. No, probably didn't teach her anything. It was probably in spite of her big brother. She has her Insta out there that is phenomenal to follow. There's a couple of them, but the one that we talk about in this one is called Date Like a Dude. And you'll hear her approach in this. It's very, very reflective of that attitude. So, like I say, put your feet up, sit back, relax, enjoy, grab the popcorn unless you're in traffic. Don't hit the person next to you, and enjoy Date Like a Dude. And one more word, of course, from the quote-unquote legal department.
Disclaimer: the views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the speaker and do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions or any entities they represent. This podcast is about dating experiences. It is not to say one dating app is better or worse than another.
So actually, I've been looking forward to this one. I think I've talked to quite a few people, but I think I've been looking forward to this one as much as anything because one, I know you very well, but
Mhm.
we don't really talk like this, which is kind of funny.
Well,
And
we haven't in a while.
yeah, not since I moved back, maybe because we
Yeah.
talked a lot about it when I was at like we'd go to dinner every Wednesday and talk about it, or Tuesday or whatever it was, and and then there'd be a Friday night where you take a shot and a half and be passed out drunk, and
I'm a real team player, let me tell you.
yeah, I'll never forget that picture of you and Jeannie, where I think it was like 2 drinks in or something like that. You were half baked. It was beautiful.
Oh, I was on a whole other level. I didn't even recognize myself.
I think we could have ended it right there. You are just on a whole nother level, period. That's all there is to it.
I'm fine with that. I'm
Yeah.
okay with that.
I think that's how it goes. So how long have you been on the dating apps, roughly, do you think?
8 years.
No shit. Have they changed a lot? Like, I mean, the people, the way, like anything really changed much to them?
Um, Definitely the formatting.
Yeah, how do you mean?
Actually, the reputation of Tinder, although it's still going strong as being kind of like sleazy, I guess you could call it, it has improved a little bit because people that I've talked to personally, like, I'm always curious about what they think about it. And, they all kind of have a bad opinion. But the more people I met and friends who were on Tinder, they actually like got married and like had like serious relationships or, actually like got somewhere great with it. So I've always gone back and said it's just kind of what you make of it. Like if you view it as being like, you're being preyed upon by men, like then
Yeah.
that's your experience. But if you kind of go in there with a mindset that, they really can't do that unless they're a serial killer. Okay. That's
Well, yeah. Different kind of
But
preying upon, yeah.
yeah, but if it's nothing like that, then you just know how to play the game and just get in and have fun.
I feel like Tinder is just like everything else, but it just has a bad rap.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
probably going to be the worst ones out of the collection. Like,
Yeah.
oh, they just want to hook up or
Yeah.
got dick pics and like, oh, and really they don't. Like, they really don't.
Yeah. So you said make the most out of it. Now, is it about 6 months ago you started that website? Or you started
Yeah,
that Insta or whatever you have going on with it?
I think so. Yeah, it was the beginning of this, or yeah, no, it was the beginning of this year, I believe.
Okay. And
Yeah.
go ahead and pimp it out and then tell me why you started doing it.
Well, it's more so on Instagram. But so it's called Date Like a Dude, and that's my Instagram handle. And basically, it started out because this whole idea started because I always live with guys. I have guy roommates, and I'm on the
An older
dating app,
brother.
and an older brother.
An older brother, yeah.
He shall not be named.
Me. All right.
And so as a joke, like I would just somehow end up in these really hilarious conversations with guys. And I think I kind of behave like a guy when I'm in conversation. And the conversations would be so hilarious because most men are not expecting women to behave like this, and which is fun for me. But anyway, I'd screenshot it. I'd screenshot what I said back and forth to the guy. And it was just this whole funny conversation where they're just like, basically, I'm treating them like they're the chick. It's like all the classic things that guys have gotten away with saying to women.
Right.
And women take it and just kind of like, they just take, I guess you could just say they just take it. But I don't. And instead of like complaining to them or nagging or whatever, I just start saying it to them. So it becomes a conversation I can't stop laughing. So what I would do was I would screenshot it and then I'd send it to my guy roommates who are like, all bros, and they just like, they womanize and whatever. And so I would send it to them and they were just dying of laughter. And they're like, I can't believe, they're like, I wish a girl would talk to me like this. It was so funny. So they were saying like, you need to like do something with this, like put it out there like in some way. And I was like, well, I would really like to, because I come across like girls that I meet through like my roommates that are friends, or, they're single and they're dating. And then they hear through my roommates like, oh, Amanda like has this down quite a bit. Like you should see like her whole roster and like all the things
her
they
whole
do
roster.
For her.
She's got a starting lineup. She's got some bench players. There's a couple guys on injured reserve over here. Well, all right. So you acting like the dude, how often does the dude act like the chick?
Actually quite a bit. Or they'll just respect the hell out of me because they don't understand how I'm like talking to them like this. Like, or not behaving like a normal woman would, like, or a typical woman who's like on the dating scene. Like, I'm trying to think of like an example. Oh, okay. Actually, I have a good example. So what's the one thing that girls hate getting from a guy besides dick pics?
I love you. I don't know. Tell me.
No. Okay. So it's the midnight text. Like, are you up? What are you doing?
WYD. Right? What are you doing?
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry. Like, yeah, absolutely.
Ask any girl and they will be complaining till the cows come home. They will like throw fits. They will like snap back and be like, it's so late. And like, I'm not that kind of girl. And like, right. They get all like worked up about it. So I don't like, there was this one guy and I woke up the next morning to a midnight text saying like, what are you doing? Or like, are you up kind of thing? And I was like, the next time the next time you text me in the middle of the night, I was like, just show up naked in my room or something like that. And then he was like, what? He was like, but what if you have another guy over? I was like, play rock, paper, scissors, and loser has to leave. And he's like, what? This is just pointless. It's like, send me a text, just show up at my house. Like, just fucking come in my room and like, don't suck.
That had to throw him back though, because like, how does he know? Like, he's like so used to. Well, first of all, like, doesn't it say like how like for him to even send that at midnight? Doesn't it show how kind of like, I don't know, new to the whole system he is? I guess like, because that's such the fuck up. Like he like. It almost seems like if a guy is texting those 3 letters and he hits send, that's like, all right, off the list. I need somebody more creative and somebody who's better who can come by and give me a midnight call. That just seems like that's where that should land.
Yeah. You would like, I don't know. He's from the East Coast and he was like, he like worked for SpaceX. So he was like kind of like this, but he was like really cute. He was like a hipster, like cute, but like kind of like introverted type guy, and it got like kind of complicated between him and I, but I'm like, I don't care. Like, I really don't care. Like getting those texts, like it really doesn't bother me. It's just an opportunity to just like just start like having fun with it.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, you really would, I guess you just really lack creativity. Like as a guy, like, what are you doing? And or like, are you up or like whatever in the middle of the night? It's like, why don't you just send a message earlier? Like, oh, hey, like, let's hang out later or something. Like that would be the best way to do it. But sometimes I am up and I'm bored and I'm like, all right, come on. I'm like, you better bring me Lucky Charms so I can have some breakfast in the morning. Thanks.
This girl and her Lucky Charms.
Make them work for it by getting you a box of cereal.
No, that's the truth though. Like, I mean, there's no handouts except for Lucky Charms. So
I know.
So you're the only person, and that's not like I've talked to everybody in the United States and Canada or anything like that, but you're the only person that has said that you request the dick pics.
Yep. Oh yeah.
All right. So before you get into that, first question would be, how many dick pics do you think you've gotten in the past 7 years. Like
Oh, God.
over under 500, we'll say. I don't know. Maybe that's a big number.
Yeah, I would say under 500 for sure.
Okay. All right.
But I could be wrong. This memory of mine.
So I
mhm.
have a thought in my thought, and I think I'm gonna share like as a man sharing this podcast out there or whatever. Like I think the rule I'm gonna help women initiate is if you get an unsolicited dick pic, the rule is you need to send that out to all of your friends. So they
Well, they'll get sent out regardless.
yeah,
Like,
oh yeah, because yeah. I mean, like you, so that way the friends can at least like all commiserate and laugh or
Yep.
do whatever you're gonna do. And I had one person say, but they sent it. They sent it unsolicited. If you asked for it, then the rule doesn't apply. If you didn't ask for it, then the rule applies. Is that a good rule, you think, sis?
I think that is a universal understanding in
It
woman
is
code.
okay.
That's
Okay.
going to happen. Like,
Okay. All right.
because whether you wanted it or didn't want it, it's going to get shown around.
Okay. Fair enough.
So I think men should expect that, and women
Yep.
should feel okay with doing that.
Yep.
But how do I say this? Like, even though I feel like this is going to sound gross because I'm your sister, like, even though I feel like
we're good. We're adults now.
yeah, like I'm free and very comfortable in like my whole sexuality or whatever you want to call it.
Mhm.
There are times where it's like, okay, just because I'm like, like down if I'm feeling the vibe, like to just, hook up. There still exists like kind of this flow to guys and girls like interacting and on like a dating sense or getting to know each other sense. And a dick pic could come like a little too fast, or it's like they're being a little too like they're not like staying with the flow. And they like there was one guy recently who kind of did this where he jumped like a little too like quick. And not because I'm like, oh, we need to date for 3 months before we have sex. It's like, like, no, like read the room, buddy. Like read
Always.
the room.
100, like read the room and vibe check are two big things for me.
Yeah. But it's also an opportunity. Like that's where you get to fucking like just play with that guy's ego and his feelings. Like not even like I really strongly encourage women like to avoid nagging mode, like when it comes to that. Like for example, like, oh, why did you send that to me? Like that was so inappropriate, or that's like just such a turn off, or I get most women want to go there and okay, that's an appropriate response. But if you really want to like have fun with it and get this guy to like get in line.
I was gonna say not only to have fun with it, but like to get him to stop. Like if you seem bigger or wherever you're going with it. I don't know where you're going, but if you're going down that path or something, like the guy's gonna be like, oh damn, it's cold outside. There's a breeze and it's cold out. I'm sorry. And then you're going, what are you doing with your dick outside, bro? I don't understand.
You're like, oh God, I was expecting bigger, but okay. Like
that's
maybe
brilliant. That's brilliant.
And they'll jump through hoops for you. That's when they like just start like really jumping through hoops for like girls and like change it around. You're like in control. Like women have their power and they'll just like it's but I understand it's like like not trying to like diminish anyone's feelings in this scenario. Like that can be very frustrating, but it's like it acknowledge it, but also turn it around.
So give me your crazy stories, the crazy guys. I mean, just give me some of the crazy you've seen. It may have been 5 years ago because I'm sure you've filtered them out by now, but like just stuff that stuck with you.
Well, okay, here's one. Last year I matched with a guy on Tinder. We're the same age, grew up in the same area, and he's single. He kind of reminds me of John Belushi. He has very much John Belushi like personality too, like party frat boy. And there was a day we agreed upon to go to Chipotle and get a burrito. And it turned out that conflicted because I had like a Zoom meeting at that time. And the challenging, sassy girl that I am came out in that moment. And because he was bragging about, like, in conversation prior to us making a date, he was bragging about his, like, throw, like, for football, and like how he has like this great like throw,
how far he can throw or whatever. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's just like, he's got muscles. He has this like solid like throw. I forget what it related to. It wasn't just a random stray thought, but
Okay.
just so this guy doesn't sound completely stupid. But so anyway, when I had to reschedule, I think I even just told him I couldn't go. And so I was like, you know what? I was like, since you got a good throw, I was like, how about like, you should go to Chipotle, and if you grab me an extra burrito and can throw it through my room, because my bedroom's on the second floor. I'm like, and if you make it through my window, then you got yourself an actual next date lined up for you. And I didn't think he would do it, but so my roommate was home on that day, in that afternoon, when this all happened, and he was sitting with his door open, and his door is right across from my bedroom door. And I'm sitting at my desk with my window open, and all of a sudden I hear this man with this like very like deep voice, and he's just like, Amanda. He's like, I'm here, it's John. And I was like, I'm like, John. And then he's like, all right, I got you your burrito, watch out. And he throws it through my fucking window. Sorry, I don't think I can cuss.
Oh yeah, you can cuss. You can cuss.
Okay.
This is your brother. You're safe. Yeah. Are you kidding
And then
me?
I come out of my room with my burrito and chips, and my roommate's just shaking his head, jaw on the floor. He's like, I cannot believe that just happened.
Oh my God. So we've got headshots, and now we've got the Hunger Games.
Yeah. Yeah. Who knew? So I ran downstairs and gave him a hug. I was like, thank you.
Oh.
He's like, did I earn an extra day? I was like, yeah, you did.
All right. So how the second date go? The second date go?
It was
Okay.
good. It was good.
Yeah,
We ended up going down to the tree lighting, because this was like during like
Oh, sure.
holiday time. So yeah. I mean, he's not boyfriend, like partner, long relationship material, but like he's a good friend.
That's cool. Well,
Yeah.
he could get you a burrito. That's awesome.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
My window while I'm on a meeting call.
that's hilarious. I love that story a lot. And good on him, for not saying like this bitch or anything like that.
Yeah.
And just kind of rolling with it. That's kind of cool. Good on him for
just-
sure.
Yeah, just he was totally like a free spirit, and like I admired that about him. I was like, you're cool. Thank you. The burrito was good too.
So how about creepers? Mini creepers?
Creepers. Yeah, actually. So I did match with a guy who ended up finding out where I lived and showed up outside.
Oh, wow.
That one was pretty scary, but it didn't escalate, thankfully. It all worked out well. But I figured, since he lived like in Redondo Beach, like South Redondo, I live in Hermosa, like we were kind of talking about landmarks. He happened to piece it together, or he just looked up my phone number like on a website to figure out
Sure.
where my address is. But kid you not, we were on the phone and talking, and then he all of a sudden was like texting me while he was talking to me of pictures, and the pictures look so familiar. I'm like, that looks like my neighbor's house. That looks like my street. And if he ended up being hot, like it would have been really romantic, but he ended up not being good looking. Like, and he was, oh my God, he was overweight too. Like, and I don't mean to put anyone down for weight or anything like that, but he was misrepresenting himself through his photos.
Sure. I gotcha.
And he was wearing a completely like crazy, awful outfit, like these like maroon and yellow like basketball shorts, and like this like oversized like fucking, I don't know what it was, like some shirt that like did not even go. It was just a mess. And
Man.
I literally just like hid in my bathroom. Like when I peeked out the window and saw that it was him, I was like, oh my God.
No way.
Oh, I was
No
freaked
way.
out. Yeah.
You know what trips me out about that? It's like, all right, so your perspective is different than a lot of women's perspective. Can you imagine how violated a lot of women would feel in that situation?
Oh yeah, yeah. And don't get me wrong, I definitely did feel that way. And there were some strong words that I shared with him about that.
Yeah.
So yeah, and unfortunately, like stuff like that does happen from time to time. Like there was even another guy from San Juan Capistrano,
Okay.
and I went out with him a few times. We had nothing physical had ever happened between us, ever. And so I don't know. I feel like that's usually the cause of like all this like craziness. But
When
anyway,
nothing physical happens or when something physical happens?
when something physical happens,
Okay.
at
The
least
cause of
in
the
my
craziness.
perspective.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. No, that
Yeah.
makes sense. That makes sense.
I mean, I would think so, but whatever. Okay. So yeah, so I ended things with him when I realized I wasn't into it, and he didn't take it well, and he disappeared for a little bit, and then all of a sudden, like he would leave. Like I guess he showed up at my house, like, and left his business card on my doorstep. Like I was like so freaked out. I'm like, wait a minute. I was like, I know who this is. And because it didn't say his name, it was just like the company or whatever. And I was
Whoa,
like,
that's weird.
it was so weird.
Yeah.
And I was like freaked out. So I reached out to him, and he acted like he did nothing wrong. He was just like, oh yeah, I just showed up last night because I wanted to come take you to dinner. I'm like,
Wow.
what? If I have blocked you because you did not
Oh,
take
you had him blocked. If you said
Oh,
if you
yeah.
said that, I missed it. I'm sorry. I
Oh,
didn't hear.
no,
So you had him
that was my
blocked
bad.
and okay. So you had him blocked and he did this. Okay.
Our conversation didn't go well when I told him I wasn't really interested in dating him.
I
It got
gotcha.
kind of, yeah, murky.
Okay.
And to the point where I felt like it was a good choice to just sever that communication contact. So I blocked him, and just to kind of end that stress and craziness. And yeah, so he thought, okay, like I'll just show up at her house at like 7 o'clock at night, unannounced. Oh, and she's blocked me. So yeah, that's definitely a green flag to go ahead and just show up at her
Yeah, I
house.
know exactly. Right. Yeah.
And
Well, since
see
you won't
who
talk to me, and let's just put this in perspective. What I know about you is if you're blocked in social, you're blocked in every phase of life, right? Like if you're in a grocery store and you see them, they're there right across, you don't see them because they're blocked, right?
blocked.
Yes.
Invisible
Okay.
mode.
Yeah.
I'm not there.
All right. Yep. It's not
Yeah.
just social. I've blocked you from my life. Gotcha. Okay.
From life. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
And just, just to kind of show his reasoning behind everything. He just figured that was like, oh yeah, I'm just going to drive from I was about to say San Clemente, San Juan Capistrano, which is about an hour drive, to Hermosa Beach after I've been blocked.
In
to
rush
go-
hour, 7 o'clock at night, I think is what you said too, right? So this is rush hour.
Oh yeah. Yeah. During rush
LA
hour.
traffic.
Yep. Just, thought I'd just hop in the car, come to your house and knock on your door and see if you want to go to dinner.
What if you first of all, back to what you were saying earlier, I agree, like totally agree. Like when sex is involved, I could see that happening if sex was involved, because like magical vagina and all this stuff,
Sure.
it's like fireworks coming out of your ass and all that.
Yeah.
But like without sex involved, like the connection isn't the same. That's what I really should say. The connection just doesn't feel the same.
Yeah.
So God, thank goodness you didn't hook up with him, sis.
I know. I was like really just following my intuition on that one. And
Yeah.
there was a lot of just, I don't even know what the proper word would be to describe this scenario. Like, I don't know, manipulation or like gaslighting. I don't know, take your pick, but it definitely like came up in conversation. And it actually repeated recently where he like DM'd me on Instagram. So he could get through, because I just kind of wiped away all the blocks, because this was a while ago, and I was like, whatever. Heard from him again, and he commented on a couple of things that I posted, and then he like sent me a DM, and he was trying to like rekindle conversation, and I really just, wasn't interested. So I ignored. And then finally he's like, are you going to let me like take you out on a date again? Like, or not? And I was just like, all I said was, no, thank you. And he got so pissed, and his response back was like, oh, really? Like, this is why you're still single, or you're still single, or something like that. I'm like thinking like, yeah, you totally hit it.
Yeah, that's it. That's why.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm still single because I don't like crazy into my life. Jeez.
I'm like, oh my God. Yeah, there was so much I could have said, and there's so much that old Amanda would have said, like in that scenario, because, like I said, a lot of work has been done within myself to kind of just eliminate like how I move forward on this type of stuff. But yeah, it was just really hilarious. It was funny just seeing how crazy this guy was getting. I'm like, all right, bye.
So your Tinder profile, I think it was on some show, wasn't it?
Yep.
So what was that on?
It was called Swipe Right.
It was on, okay, a show called Swipe Right. Okay. And they like, I know you sent that and I remember watching it, but they pretty much just broke down all your pictures and like just kind of like thumbs up pretty much, or if they'd swipe right or if they wouldn't swipe right, right? That was the concept of it, correct?
Mostly, but they really wanted to see what kind of conversations I was having with guys.
Oh, okay. Okay.
How they would go. So they requested screenshots of like my best ones. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. It was a trip because it was like two hosts on the show, and they were going through about 5 different profiles, and they would like rate them. And there was about like 3 guys, and I think there's just me. No, actually 2 guys and then 3 girls. And so they would have really funny commentary when they're like first reading my profile, because my profile is very out there. And and then my photos, they would have their, comments about it. And then they really got like all their kicks out of like the messaging portion where like what I would say to the guy and what they'd say back. So at the end, they pick a winner, and then mine got picked as the winner.
Oh, I forgot about that. That's awesome.
I was the winner of the group. So I did like a little video feature towards the end where they were kind of like interviewing me a little bit.
That's awesome.
Chime in. So it was fun.
So when you log in, and I guess I should ask, like, we've talked Tinder a lot. Do you use Bumble and Facebook and Match? Or what else do you use, or anything else?
No, I just have Tinder right now. I've tried Bumble. I've liked Bumble. But the part about Bumble that I really just couldn't get into is the fact that the girl has to message the guy first.
Which is their idea to liberate women, which actually kind of in some ways feels like it puts more pressure on women. Am I wrong? Or
well, the complaint from men is that women just don't really talk a lot on these apps. So it's usually the guy always having to reach out first. That's the complaint. And so they would prefer like a woman to do it. So that's how they made Bumble, was like with that idea in mind to solve that problem.
Right.
But I don't always, like I like to have the guy message me first. So that's kind of where my mind is going with it. But Bumble has, if you ask around, people like girls will say like, oh yeah, it's like a better relationship kind of site.
I gotcha. That sounds to like what we were talking about earlier. That sounds like maybe that's true, but maybe it's also more just the bad rep that Tinder gets.
Yeah. Tinder's very flighty or whatever, but and in some cases, yeah, that could be true. But I feel like you could find that on Bumble too. You can find that just walking into a bar or meeting somebody in real life. Like you can still get this result. It just depends on you.
So when you log in, like if you wait, let's just say, well, how many times a day do you log in, or do you log in multiple times a day?
Actually, like I probably log in like a couple times a week.
Okay. When you log in, how many likes are waiting for you on average, do you think?
They don't really tell you, but
Oh, okay. Okay.
yeah, not unless you purchase like the membership, I think.
Yeah.
I think then it'll like show you, but
Okay.
yeah.
Because I
Yeah,
would imagine you have 25 to 40 just sitting there, new ones waiting for you each time you roll in. That'd be my guess.
well, it's hard to know. Like I've actually never tracked it, but there will be like quite a bit of, messages in my inbox from like
Yeah.
new matches or whatever. Because I'll go through when I'm on there, I will do like my swiping due diligence and then I'll just leave it alone for a week and then come back and see like messages in my inbox.
It's like, I don't have any open positions on the roster. I'm sorry. So, we're
Like,
just
I
doing
really
minor
have a
league
close
swiping
now.
right now. Yeah, just minor league swiping. But there might be an opening at the end of the month.
I'm like, there might be a miracle waiting in here. Who
There
knows?
might be a
But
miracle. Yeah.
until then, usually my plate's pretty full.
Yeah. I love this woman. I can't help it. Jeez. So, any stories that stick out in your mind you want to share?
Hmm. Shoot, God. I mean, there's a lot.
No, I bet there is.
There's a lot. Gosh, I don't know. You tell me. Like, pick an angle.
No, I mean, all right. So let's do this. So 7 years you've been doing this. So your interactions are different now than they were 7 years ago. So I imagine, I imagine in the beginning you were probably sensory overload, probably a bunch of just kind of couldn't believe what was coming at you, and now you're kind of like, oh, I'm gonna go at them, and flip the script on a little bit more. So I would imagine in the beginning there was probably a lot more, we'll say, trauma than there is now. So we've talked about some of the creepers, but what was the worst date you had?
Oh, hands down. When I first got on Tinder, there was a date. So this is going back to 2014. There was a date with this guy, around my age, whatever. I was living in Manhattan at that time, and we were set to meet at 7:00 down at Manhattan Creamery.
Our favorite.
Our favorite, right?
Yeah,
that's the spot.
Yeah,
like I cannot stand sit down dates for the first date, like for dinner. Like that's too much pressure. I can't hold a conversation. Like I got to be active. My nerves are pumping through my body. Like I need to move around and let that energy just. So walk, ice cream down the pier. Cool. So anyway, I had a pretty close girlfriend at the time who was working at a retail shop downtown Manhattan. And it was a very cold night. It was during I want to say it was like fall moving into winter at that point.
It was
it was definitely snowing. It was blizzard. I was like, I gotta pull the car over and go get a solid jacket.
I remember those days when we were looking at the Christmas lights. Nah, it's like snowing.
I know, like what? It's 55 out here. It is snowing, people.
Yep.
Oh God. Yeah. So I let him know, hey, I'm gonna stop and just grab a jacket really quick from my friend's store, and then I'll be about 10 minutes. I get down there. I walk in with a bag of I think it was my old sweater or something. And then I have my new jacket on, and he looked pissed. Wow. Never met this guy, right? First time meeting, but the guy looks really pissed and just really solemn face, just glaring at me. And I'm like, so I take note, but I keep walking towards him, and he's standing in line to get ice cream for us. And the first thing he says to me, he looks down at my little shopping bag and he's like, oh, it looks like we have a little problem, don't we? A little shopping problem.
Wow. That's
Oh.
boy, there's date number 2 coming right after that one.
Oh God, right. Immediately signing up
Yeah.
for that shit. Oh my
Oh.
God. I was like, that should have been my first clue to just be like, oh, you know what? My mom's calling me from heaven.
Yeah.
I gotta go.
Yeah, from heaven. Yeah, exactly.
He's calling
Exactly.
me. I gotta go take that. Um,
So did it
but
progressively get worse?
oh yeah.
Oh no.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It keeps getting better. It keeps getting better. So I laugh and I'm like, oh, I'm so glad you have a great sense of humor. That's so cute. And he was just like, he was pissed because he wanted me to feel like sorry for like going to buy myself a jacket so I could stay warm on our date. And I was like, oh, and then I finally, was like, hey, like, oh, sorry, I definitely texted you. You got those, right? He was responding. So I know that was a stupid question. And he's like, yeah, but you like kept me waiting. I was like, oh, well, funny. Like, that's something you could mention, that's fine. We can talk about it. So we move forward. We get our ice cream. We walk down to the pier. It was nice. But once we sat down, the conversation was getting a little more interesting and taking a turn. He now was like, at the time, the way I had my hair, it looks like Taylor Swift. So he kept calling me T Swift, and like whatever. So, and I was like, okay. And then he starts opening up about his past relationship. The past relationship was horrible. This girl walked all over him, broke his heart. He was kind of like the dude holding the purse and the chihuahua and like just being shitted on by this girl. That was kind of the way he painted this picture. And I was like, oh gosh, sorry to hear that. So I'm getting progressively bored of this date. And I'm thinking there's zero interest in this guy that I have because the first impression sucked. Like that was just stupid. So I'm being polite. I'm eating the ice cream. I'm listening to these goddamn like boring ass like woe is me stories. And I'm like, it's 9:00. I look at my watch. I'm like, oh gosh, I gotta go. Like I have an early morning tomorrow. He gets pissed.
Again, huh?
He's like, it's only 9:00 and it's a Friday night and da da da. He's like, this guy really is just speaks his mind, And I was like, oh, I make up excuse after excuse. It's all bullshit. I'm not telling the truth. And I just want to get out of there. So I get up, he gets up, and then he moves in to kiss me, like full tongue and everything. Homie is not reading the room. He is fucking just going.
That's a bad heat check right there. That's a bad heat check.
Seriously. And so I threw up in my mouth for a minute and then, got my composure back and told him, I'm going to walk back to my truck now because I had the Tacoma at that time.
Sure.
And I was like, I'm going to go walk back now. He's like, let me walk you. He insists. And I was like, oh God. I was like, whatever. I'm just going to ditch him in an alley or something. We walk up and then I go to my friend's store and I was like, oh, it's a girl clothing store. I get it. If you don't want to hang out, like, I'm good. Thanks for walking me. Like, he stays. He fucking stays. And then I finally was like, bro, we're good. Like, thank you. Go home. I'm going to stay here for a minute. You go. Are we going to have a date on Sunday? Like, I'd really love to. I was like, oh, maybe like, I'll let you know kind of thing. Finally, the guy leaves, but Sunday morning comes. I get a message from him. Are you ready for our date?
Oh my God.
I didn't say we were having a date, but like, yes, you did. Oh, and I'm like, why? It just keeps getting worse. And I'm just like,
he said, yes, you did. Like he said, you really?
Oh, yes. In his mind, we had a date already set up and planned.
Wow.
And the fact that I was saying we did not just triggered this whole outburst. And it went back into the girlfriend who like trampled all over him. I have to be this stern because otherwise you're going to walk all over me like my ex-girlfriend did or something. I'm like,
oh boy. Wow.
It was a train wreck.
It's just like the subtle part of that that's kind of funny too. Is like he in his mind, he has to be this strong, and he has to be this so you don't walk all over him. Where he was the boyfriend that held the bag and the dog, but still walked in to the store with you to wait for you when you were pretty visible about not wanting him to. So he was going right back to that behavior too.
Yeah, like awareness is everything. Like just
Totally.
self-awareness. Like
Totally. Wow.
My favorite part about self-help, or what is it called? Like just growth within yourself, period, is like whatever you complain about, like look at how you're allowing that in. Like that's where it all goes back to. You'll save yourself so much trouble if you instead of projecting it out through blame, like you really just look at your part in it. Like how am I like putting myself in this situation? Sure, it sucks like when it happens and it like doesn't feel good, like understandable, but you can only go so far with like blaming another until you have to look at your part. Like why did you let yourself walk into that?
All right, so I asked the worst date. What about the best date?
Oh, the best date. Okay, actually from that same year there was kind of this whirlwind date. I've had a couple like since then, but this one like stands out because it was just like a really fun whirlwind thing. Like the attraction was just on point the minute like he and I locked eyes with each other, and it just was like whew. Yeah. But this one guy I met downtown Manhattan at the Strand House, and he walked down the hill and I was coming out of the Strand House, and it was just like we both knew, like it was just like it's just the whole fireworks thing is like real. That really was the thing. And I was so nervous because all the butterflies in my stomach when we walk in to go get a drink. And I could not sit still. Like we were even standing. It was a standing bar. We had a view. It was like all beautiful. But my nerves actually worked in my favor because I became this spontaneous little thing. And while we're like in the midst of like, drinking, like, or whatever cocktail we're having, I literally looked over at Shellback across the street, which is more of a divey bar, as you know.
Yep.
And it was pumping over there. And I was like, I grabbed this guy by the arm and I was like, let's go over here. And we literally just like bone out. We leave. We're running across the street. And it's a like way more chill vibe. There's music playing, like it's packed, and we're like squished up against each other. And we're just like, talking and flirting. And I'm just so random. Like somehow we're like making like these nicknames for each other. But I told him to write it on my arm with my lipstick that I had in my purse. So he was like writing, he called me like Birdie or something. And then he like, after that, we're just like laughing, just like it was going so well. And he asked me, he's like, so I have to ask, like that move that you just did from Strand House to here, like on a whim. He's like, was that you being spontaneous, or did you see an ex-boyfriend and you didn't want him to see us?
Legit question.
So cute. It was so cute. And I was like, no, I was like, actually it's anxiety. I was like, I just had to like I was like, my body just kept moving because you're so hot, and that's how it came out, I guess. I'm sorry. And he's
that's
like
awesome.
Laughing. So then we finish there, and then we go for a walk down to the pier or on the beach, and it's completely black. And next thing you know, we're like hand in hand walking through the sand, and it starts raining. Like this whole like little rom-com like scene, like just this like beautiful rain, and then we both look at each other, and then we just like make out. And it was like the best.
Look at you playing serendipity and all that.
It really was. And we carried on off and on for a couple years, and then it got to a point where we were going to make it more serious, but then I don't know, it didn't work out. Like it just felt like it wasn't quite right. So
all right, that's fair.
But it was
that's
a
pretty
great
cool. Yeah,
just
I mean,
really
it sounds like a
magical.
great few dates too.
Yeah. We had a great few dates. Yeah, no, it was fun.
See, I
Yeah.
love the way you go about it. And I don't know if I asked this earlier. I feel like I did, but if I didn't, I just want to make sure I do it again. So if you were to give any advice to women on these fucking sites, what would you say?
I would say do the opposite of what you're doing now. Just do the opposite. No, like throw out any rules you've ever learned about dating and about how to be a lady and know that it's all an even playing field. Like there's no waiting if you don't want to wait to have sex. If you have chemistry, like you're not going to be a slut. You're actually just enjoying your life and really just rewrite the rules. Like don't make marriage and relationship your goal. Like make you just wanting to live like your best life, however that looks for you first, and just live from that space. Like, if marriage was never even like a goal, how would your life look? How would you behave? Like, what would you do? How would you interact?
Thank you for being along for the ride of the Swipe Wrong podcast, where we take everyday people like you and me telling their everyday stories of their swipe right life. Show is produced by Jay Pelham. He is the host of Pelham Place. If you want to reach out to the show and tell us your story, we'd love to hear it. Give us a call. Google Voice us at 317-426-6616. Leave your information and we'll get back to you, or just your story. You can also email us at swipewrongpod@gmail.com. We are on Insta, Facebook, TikTok. We're out there. I am Chaos, the host of Chaotic Commentary. You can find me pretty much anywhere that you see me. And next week, the saga continues.
Swipe wrong. Swipe wrong.